Hello, Internet. Oh, my gosh.
Hello, Internet. Wow. Yes, we are on the interwebs now.
I think I just channeled in a little bit of YouTube.
Do we want to restart, or is this a thing now?
Let's just roll with it, and we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Welcome, everybody, to Tangent Podcast, brought to you by yours truly, Jack and Austin, my fine fellow friend here with me on my right side. This is episode 4?
Yes.
5?
Episode 4. Well, if we include our pilot we recorded, then it's 5, but...
4th official released episode. If you listen to the prior episode, you noticed that it was not a Owl episode. American Urban Legends. We went Alabama, Alaska, and we decided to take a small break on the whole state's urban legends because we had a few. Just listen to the last one, you'll understand why we're doing it. But whenever we released the last episode, we talked about Elisa Lam and the strange happenings of her death. Gosh, it's late at night. You're just going to have to deal with me, as you have to every single episode. Yes, but this time we are talking about, honestly, my personal favorite story of unknown or unexplained incidences in the world ever. This is just so incredibly just interesting, messed up, not quite as messed up in the same disturbing sense as Elisa Lam was. It's a different disturbing, just kind of, we don't know what happened, and there is no way we will ever know.
It's disturbing, but it is just great at the same time.
It's I don't know what it is. It's just something about it is so captivating, and it's a great story. Well, okay. It's a terrible story that happened. It's very unfortunate, but it makes for a good story. And that's what we're here to talk about today.
Yeah, it's one of those stories where you can definitely use your imagination and come up with tons of different possible solutions to what happened. But this is the Dyatlov Pass incident.
Yes.
It's been pretty heavily covered as well on some other podcasts. And it is also one of my personal favorites just because there's so many weird things about it that can be explained so many different ways. And there's so much mystery surrounding it. It's just cool. It is sad, like Jack said, but it's so interesting to think about.
It's just nuts in every aspect. The more you go into it, the more questions you get. And none of them ever really get answered. So, another reason why I like this one so much is it was actually it was the first, true crime podcast I actually listened to. It was recommended to me by Austin himself. And it's the first thing I listened to personally. In true crime, paranormal, blah, 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 that sense. And it got me hooked. One of the reasons we're doing our podcast today, I think, is Dyatlov Pass has a bit of pull on that. And, well, let's just get right into it.
Yeah. As Jack said, we're moving away from the States here, going south of the border a little bit, over to Russia.
Did you say south of the border?
We're going south of the border to Russia.
It's east.
Fine. Well,
or west, depending on which way you go.
We can't say east of the border. That doesn't make sense.
Yes, it does. It's just the border, but east.
It's not a saying.
It could be.
We're going south of the border and then east.
No, we're going north and then east.
Fine, whatever.
Or west. Okay. West is faster.
Okay, we're going to Russia. That's where we're going.
Deep into Russia.
This is in the Ural Mountains.
Okay, first, let's just start off by, none of us have any experience in Russian language or vocabulary in any way. So every single one of these words is probably going to be pronounced incorrectly, but you get the point.
But that is where you are wrong, Jack.
Oh my goodness. Yuri himself has joined us.
Yes. Yeah, we don't speak Russian. It'll be rough. Just know that right off the bat. So yeah, Dyatlov Pass, it's a crazy one. If you haven't heard of it before, it was a group of, was it 9 hikers? Yeah, 9.
Was it 9 originally and then 8, or was it 10
It was
and then
10.
9?
No, let's see, yeah, 10,
Well-
because it says the deaths of 9.
Okay, so there was 9 people, and then there were 8, and then there were 9 again. Or was there 9, then 10, then 9? Because remember, they had
one guy that
one guy
didn't
left,
die. Yeah,
and then one guy that joined it up with him later.
right. So I think they started out with 10, because remember there was a guy that ended up not going the whole way with them, and he went back.
So there was originally 9 groups of people, a group of 9 people, and these people are about mid-20s to mid-30s, prime. Not really
Physical
prime.
specimens.
They're very good physically, and what they're doing is they're going on a backpacking mountain climbing expedition to a mountain that, what did it translate to? Dead Mountain?
Death Mountain or something. Let me see if I can find the name of it.
The Russian
Mountain,
name is Russian, but it does translate to Dead Mountain.
Wait,
I
the
believe.
Russian name is Russian?
Oh my gosh, could you not right now?
Dead Mountain. Yeah, so it is. Let's see if I can find the Russian name. Let's see. But yeah, it translates to Dead Mountain.
Okay. Well, he looks for that. Yes. So, and it's got kind of a. It's not like it's no Mount Everest, but it is a difficult mountain to climb. It's not insane, but it is not for the faint of heart. But these people, this is what they did. They loved backpacking. They loved mountain climbing. So this is what they did. They had the necessary equipment. They were very capable of this certain task.
It's not like they just liked it. They were experts at it. Like, they were some of the best and legitimate experts in it. So they weren't just like weekend backpackers.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, hey, you guys want to go on a trip? No, they did this like on a weekly basis.
Yeah,
this is this was their hobby. This was their life.
Pretty much was like
right
devoted to this.
So we're just trying to get the point across that these were no average amateur hikers. So there were 9 people. What happened? Just a little bit of the beginning, so we can just get this out of the way. They hiked up partially. One of the members, actually, I think before that even happened, one other group had turned around for whatever reason, and they had someone in their group. Can you get me a name by chance?
Of the guy that left?
No, the one guy that joined up with them.
Oh, that was Yuri Yudin, I'm pretty sure.
Yuri Yudin.
He was the survivor, if that's what you're talking about.
No, he was not. No, that's not what I'm talking about.
Oh, not the survivor.
I'm talking about the one that he was by himself, and he caught up with that group and said, hey, can I join you guys? Anyway, there was one guy that was alone, and he happened to see this group of people, and he went, hey, can I join you, basically? And I don't know his name. We might find it. But I do remember he was ex-military, and he was a rough and tough dude. They were a little hesitant at first. From what the notes, there are journal entries that have been found, so we're not just kind of like making stuff up. But they were hesitant at first, but they actually ended up really liking the guy and bringing him along with. Later on, one of them, and that one was Yuri?
That was Yuri Yudin.
Yudin had a...
He got sick.
He had a heart problem, leg problem?
Congenital heart defect.
Yeah, so he had a heart defect.
And knee pain.
Aha! I said heart problem and leg problems. I was right. Anyway, he had to turn around. They didn't get very far, and he's like, sorry guys, you gotta go on without me. I'm in too much pain, blah, blah, blah. So he left and went home. And so that leaves the 9 that are left. 8 original, plus the one that joined in with them later.
Here's another interesting fact. So these, like, they were legitimately professional hikers and professional, like, outdoorsmen. So 8 of the 9 were class or grade 2 hikers with ski tour experience, and after this trip, which was a 10-kilometer trip, they would be receiving their grade 3 certification, and that was at the time the highest certification available in Russia. So they're
good.
The top, like the best of the best.
They were just about to become the best of the best you could get in Russia at the time. They're good. They know what they're doing.
Right. So they set out on this trip. So they went and stayed in a town, and they took a truck ride from there to a village that was like the last inhabited settlement to the north. So they were heading north. So they go to the very last civilization, and they like bought some bread there and got some food. Supplies. And then the next day when they began, that's when Yuri got sick and had his knee problems, and he ended up having to stay back. So I'm trying to find out how far they made it. So they hiked for 3 days. And this is according to diaries and then cameras that the group had.
Oh yeah, they did take a lot of photos.
Right.
And these are actually available online. You can take a look at the pictures that they found in the investigation afterwards, and some of the diary notes. I gotta find it, but I would recommend, if you're interested in this, definitely go take a look. But I would also recommend viewers' discretion, because if you take a look at the pictures that they took, there's a high chance that they also are attaching the pictures that
of the dead people,
of the crime scene, which does have some dead people stuff. I think it's this one.
Yeah.
Ooh, is that it? I don't know if that's it.
I'm pretty sure
that's not the one I remember. Is it this one? Make that quieter.
Oh,
this is the one I remember looking at. You can just Google search Dyatlov Pass. And Dyatlov is spelled, you can see it in the
Google search.
I was going to say title of the podcast.
Yeah.
Unless we don't plan on putting it there.
Dyatlov. There you
go. Dyatlov. Yes, Dyatlov Pass. Just Google Dyatlov Pass photos, and you'll be able to see them. It's really interesting, the pictures they took and the aftermath as well. But don't get ahead of yourselves. Wait for us to, tell you the story before you go Googling things. Where do we go from there? Just straight into the incident?
Yes. Well, so they left the village on the 27th of January, and they were climbing the mountain called Otorten, which is Dead Mountain. And so the next day, the day after they started, that's when Yuri went back with his leg and his heart stuff. And then 3 days later, so they'd been out for 4 days total, they, again, diaries and the pictures are what help us kind of track the trek. So on January 31st, they arrived kind of where they were starting to climb and summit the mountain. And they kind of cached their surplus of food and equipment that they would be using for their trip back. So the trip total, I think, was 10 kilometers. But again, they were hiking in the winter. So, like, in the summer, you could do 10 kilometers, like, easy in a day.
And it's not necessarily all flat land.
Right,
It's up, and it's rocky, and it's Russia in the winter.
Right.
It's not easy.
Feet and feet upon feet of snow and rugged terrain. So, yeah, they were moving not super quickly. So 4 days, they get to the base of the mountain. They start climbing. They leave most of their cache of food and supplies at the bottom at their kind of like base camp. So then the following day, on the 1st of February, they started to move through the pass, Dyatlov Pass.
It's not called Dyatlov Pass just yet.
Right.
Because, and actually, the leader, quote-unquote leader of the group, his last name is Dyatlov. I can't remember his first name.
His name is Igor Alexeyevich Dyatlov.
Yeah, that. And this is why it ends up being called Dyatlov Pass, is because they named it after the leader's name after the incident happened.
Right. So basically what happened is they start to go through this pass, and their plan was to go camp on the next side of this pass for a night. But because of the weather, there was like a really bad snowstorm. They ended up taking the wrong direction and kind of going to the west, towards the top of Kolatsiakil, which I think that's just kind of like the name of the area or the city that they were, like, not city because there wasn't anything there, but just the area that they were in. So then they realized that they were offline, and they just decided to stop and set up their camp there on the slope of a mountain, which kind of sucks. If you've ever camped and slept in a tent on a hill, it's awful. But yeah, they're on the slope of a mountain. They were about 1.5 kilometers or almost 1 mile away from the forested area where they wanted to be. So to move through the snow almost a mile would have taken them a long time. So they just decided to set up camp here. They didn't have any like forest or shelter from the elements, so it was really snowy. And they just decided to camp there. So that's kind of where disaster begins to strike.
And it gets, and by disaster is literal. It's crazy. I'm debating how we want to say how this happened. Do we want to go straight to the trying to discover them? Because this is about when they went missing, correct?
Right. And the reason they knew they were missing is because they had agreed that the hikers would send a telegram to
their hiking club or whatever.
Right. They would send them a telegram when they returned to the village that they began the trek from. So then they said that they expected that would happen no later than February 12th. And so when the 12th passed and no messages had been received, they didn't react immediately because they knew that there might be a couple days delay with the severe weather. You know, they weren't anticipating that necessarily.
They waited all the way till the 20th.
Right.
And that's when they decided to send in rescue groups to find them. And let's see, on the 26th, so 6 days later, what day they left on the 1st?
They left January 27th.
Oh, really? Okay.
This was about a month later, yeah.
So on the 26th of February, they finally found the group. Kind of. Some of them. This is where it gets real interesting.
Well, didn't they first just find the tent? I think they found...
Oh, you're right.
Just the campsite, which the tent was really badly damaged.
Yes, they first find the tent that is half torn down, covered in snow, and where they find also all their belongings and shoes and blah, blah, blah left behind. So they find the group's campsite. Sorry, they don't find them just yet. But they do find footprints leading out from the campsite in almost every direction.
Yeah. And another kind of key detail is that they found the damaged tent was actually cut out from the inside. And I don't necessarily know how they were able to tell. I'm guessing just by the way the fabric was cut. Like, I'm sure if you cut it, it would kind of like bow out a certain way, you know, like, depending on what side you're cutting from.
I'm guessing if you cut through from one side, the fabrics, you know, like it'll fray.
Yeah.
The fabrics will probably fray towards the out
yeah.
of where. I'm guessing that's what it is, but I can't be sure.
Right.
These are experienced hikers, and one of them is ex-military. They have knives and other survival gear that probably they use to cut themselves out of the tent, which is kind of weird. How is cutting yourself out of a tent faster than just walking out?
Right. So it shows some desperation to get out.
Much desperation.
Right.
Also, notice that their shoes and clothes are still in the campsite with them not there.
Right. They said most of the 9 pairs of footprints were left by people wearing only socks or a single shoe or barefoot. And they were leading down toward the edge of the nearby woods down there on the opposite side of the pass. So it was, what was that, 1.5 kilometers away?
Yeah.
To the northeast. So they ran forever, like almost a mile out of this tent.
Yeah, but after about 1,600 feet, the tracks start to get covered.
Right.
Because it's super snowy, there's been storms. It's been a while, supposedly, since this event has actually happened. They don't know when it actually happened, but yes, these footprints start getting covered up, and they find it harder to track. But they do find, where is it at? At the forest edge, under a large pine tree, they find visible remains of a small fire. And also, they found the first 2 bodies. Gosh dang. Of Krivonishenko. Go for it. Tell me their names.
Krivonishenko and Doroshenko.
Yeah, okay. Both Shenkos, apparently. They find their bodies shoeless and dressed only in their underwear. The branches of the tree were broken up to 5 meters high, about 30 feet, just for comparison, suggesting that one of the skiers had climbed up to look for something, and maybe even get away from something. So, just taking a pause break there. How far away was this again? About a mile away.
Almost a mile away.
About almost a mile away from where the camp was. They find a fire, which makes sense. You try to keep warm.
Especially only if you're in your underwear.
That's where things get weird. The bodies they find, only in their underwear. That's it. Why the heck would you leave your tent like that?
In the middle of the Russian winter.
And again, experienced.
Right.
They know if they go out like that, they are going to die.
Well, that's the thing, is you're picking one form of death over another. Like, you're choosing to freeze to death rather than face whatever there was at your tent.
Whatever was causing such desperation.
Yeah, so you're just choosing to die by freezing rather than dying by whatever's in your tent, which
freezing sounds awful.
Is a terrifying concept.
Okay, and then on top of that, they find broken branches from the tree they were under, 5 meters high. Now, it makes sense if maybe they're trying to climb the tree to find the others, because it was just 2 of them. Maybe they were trying to, again, get away from something that may have initially caused what they got frightened or why they left the tent in the first place. There's many reasons why this could be happening. And before people dismiss this as, oh, they're probably broken already, it could have been animals, they find human skin remnants within the tree bark. Like it had been climbed, or I don't know what else could happen.
Yeah, like to tear up your hands on tree bark, like you gotta be pretty rough on your hand. Like, I don't know.
And 5 meters? That's pretty high.
Yeah, that is pretty high.
I mean, these are experienced hikers, but why on earth are they going so high up in that tree?
Especially in your underwear, like in the freezing cold.
You're not wearing gloves, you're not wearing shoes.
Right.
You're not wearing anything, and your skin's going to get destroyed.
Right. I can't imagine what would have caused them to want to climb a tree in that condition. Like, away from the fire, of all things. Like, in that condition, you want to stay as close to the fire as you can. So, again, they're choosing to leave the fire to climb a tree to do something. We don't know, but it appears that they were climbing with haste because their skin was found there. But yeah, so those 2 Shenko dudes were found there in their underwear. And then between the pine tree there and the camp, they found 3 other corpses. Dyatlov, who the pass is named after, Kolmogorova, and Slobodin, who seemed to have died in poses that suggested they were going back to the tent.
They were trying to make their way back after leaving.
I don't know how they can really tell.
I'm guessing
maybe just the direction.
Yeah, they're probably facing towards the tent, like they were walking that way and fell forward after dying. I don't know. You don't really fall that way face down per se if you're going the other way.
Probably, but they weren't really together either. They were one of them was 300 meters from the tree, another was 480 meters from the tree, and then 630 meters from the tree. So they were all separated and kind of found alone, but in a line going towards the tent. Again. So it's weird that they leave in such a haste but then go back. Maybe they were just going back for supplies to try and stay alive.
I don't know. That's We don't know. But, so, that's 2 we found under the tree, 3 we found otherwise. That's a total of 5 of the 9 hikers that they have found. It takes 2 months to find the other 4. Where they were finally found on May 4th. Which is a long ways away from... remember, they left in January. And where they were found was under 4 meters of snow. 4 meters! That's a lot of snow.
Yeah.
That is so much snow. In a ravine, about 75 meters further into the woods from the pine tree. So they were the furthest away from camp. Which is they were probably about a mile away.
Yeah.
Give or take, just a small amount.
Right. And they were all better dressed as well. So it seems like they had been using the clothing and supplies of the people that had died first. But which is weird because they say that like some of the men were wearing women's clothing and some of the women were wearing men's clothing.
They obviously weren't worried about what they were wearing. They were just grabbing
Right.
something and putting it on.
Yeah, they were just in such a haste that they were grabbing whatever they could find. Some of them couldn't grab anything before they got out, or maybe the people took the people that were found on their underwear maybe had their clothes taken from them after they died. But yeah, so these 4, or it says 3 of those 4 were better dressed than the others.
Where it gets a little weird is saying here, crap, give me that name.
Dubinina.
Dubinina was wearing
Krivonashenko.
that guy's burned, torn trousers. Why were they burned?
Maybe she was getting close to a fire. And
Maybe.
just burned them or
Torn,
something.
that makes
I don't
sense
know.
in such a haste. Burn is just a little weird in my mind.
Right.
And then she also had her left foot and shin wrapped with a torn jacket.
Right.
For unknown reasons, I guess. Probably just a regular injury.
Right. But what's weird is that, so after they find the bodies, they started doing medical examinations on them. And for the first 5 bodies that were found, they say a medical exam. So those were the 2 under the pine tree and then the 3 heading back to the tent. They said that there were no injuries found that might have led to their deaths, and it was eventually concluded that they had all died of hypothermia. One of them, Slobodin, he had a small crack in his skull, but they didn't think that it was a fatal wound, which a crack in the skull seems...
Every crack in every skull seems a bit fatal to me.
Yeah. But then the 4 bodies that were found in May, 2 months later, was pretty disturbing.
Yeah, it got weird.
So 3 of the 4 that were found had fatal injuries. There's one named Thibaut Brignole, I think that's French. He had a major skull damage, and then Dubinina and Zolyatarov had major chest fractures.
Chest fractures, that's weird. Like, it's like blunt force just being hit in a chest.
Right.
And it takes a lot of force to cause death being hit in the chest.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what they believe killed them. What the heck are you getting hit by in the chest that will kill you?
Right.
It's something that would cause you to probably leave your tent almost butt naked and run out of there.
Right. So yeah, fatal wounds on 3 of the 4. Like, crazy fatal wounds, incredible skull damage, incredible chest damage. And then, according to one of the doctors that did the examinations, the force required to cause such damage would have been extremely high, comparable to the force of a car crash.
A car crash. So, like we said earlier, what does it take to get hit in the chest so hard that it kills you? A car! It's a car!
Yeah, but the weird part was that it said, notably, that the bodies had no external wounds associated with the bone fractures. And so they think that they were subject to really high levels of pressure. So, like, something sitting on your chest and crushing it, but not leaving any external damage.
Okay, so there's some of the, to put it lightly, and it doesn't make any sense, but these are the minor injuries in my mind.
Right.
Next, they find Dubinina, one of the girls, correct?
Yeah.
I think there were 2 girls in that expedition.
Yeah, there were 2.
One of them, they find her, and not only is she, she has major external injuries, just like the rest of them. She also is missing her tongue, she's missing her eyes, and she's missing part of her lips, and she's missing some facial tissue, and she has fragmented skull bone. She's got some major skin lacerations and all that on her hands. It was claimed that she was found lying face down in a small stream that ran under the snow. That her injuries were in line with the
putrefaction.
I don't know what that is.
Putrefaction in a wet environment, and were unlikely to be associated with her death. So, I mean, this is the crazy thing to me. So I will say, they were found under a bunch of feet of snow. So maybe the pressure of all the snow, if it was like an avalanche or something,
that could hit like a car.
That could hit like a car. Also, with the chest injuries, like I've heard that going into cardiac arrest can cause huge, like, grapefruit-sized holes in your chest.
What?
Yeah, I don't remember where I heard that, but
the internet.
It might have actually been on Psych, I think. Like, I legit think Woody from Psych said that or something. But, like, going into cardiac arrest can cause damage to your chest area.
I believe that.
So that, combined with the pressure of snow and possible force of an avalanche, could be the cause. But I don't know. I just don't see that. Like,
well, that is 20 feet of snow on top of them.
Right. I don't know.
Sounds like an avalanche to me.
Right. Yeah, it could be, but it's weird. Like,
I mean, in my mind, if I get hit by an avalanche, it's not just my chest that they're gonna find. I think my neck's gonna be broken. I think I'm gonna have broken legs and stuff from being thrown around by an avalanche.
Right.
And they don't have many of those things. All they have is fractured skull and this huge. Also, it's not going to tear out my tongue,
and
my eyes, and part of my lip. Maybe my lip. That makes sense. But she didn't have eyes or her tongue. What's up with that?
Right.
That's messed up.
Right. So, some gruesome deaths. Some of them not so gruesome. Just elemental death, freezing, hypothermia. But some of them pretty gruesome. Blunt force trauma, by the force of a car crash. So crazy mysterious with the exact cause of death.
We didn't even say when this was. This was a while ago.
Yeah, this was in 1959.
So this is in 1959 when this happened, and today it's still an unsolved case, and cause of death is unknown officially.
Right. So I mean, medical science today. I don't know when the last time was that they tested the bodies, but I'd imagine.
I actually think they're reopening the case.
Are they? I had heard that. Yeah, I had heard that too. So hopefully they can find something.
Obviously, technology, criminal investigation, all that kind of stuff. Not as good as it was, or is as good. Better. Gosh,
it wasn't as good back then as it is today.
That's what I'm trying to say. Right. But yes, according to CNN, just looking it up really quick, that they posted on February 4th. It's an article titled "Russia Reopens Investigation into 60-Year-Old Dyatlov Pass Mystery." So that might be very interesting. I need to go read this. Why didn't we read this?
Yeah, I didn't look that much into the reopening of it.
I just heard it was going to be. I didn't know it officially was.
Does it say why? Does it give a reason why they're reopening it?
It's just kind of giving a recap. I know this stuff.
While you're looking that up, I'm going to move on.
Keep going.
So, I mean, one of the initial speculations was that there was an indigenous group that lived close called the Mansi people, and they thought that the Mansi had attacked the group of hikers for kind of encroaching their lands. But when they investigated this, they saw that the nature of the deaths of the hikers didn't really support the theory of an attack, because only the hikers' footprints were visible. There weren't any other sets of footprints, and there was no sign on the hikers of a struggle, a hand-to-hand struggle. They didn't really have external wounds other than that lady missing her eyes and her tongue. But other than that, no signs of a struggle or a foul play by anybody else. So yeah, again, they weren't well dressed. Some of them only had one shoe, one sock. Some of them were found in snips of ripped clothing. Let's see here. So yeah, they did conclude. So 6 of them apparently they died of hypothermia, and then the 3 of the fatal injuries of the blows to the head and chest. There weren't any other indications of anyone else that was nearby. Just the 9 travelers. The tent had been ripped open from within. Victims had died 6 to 8 hours after their last meal, so they were able to tell that within the medical testing. So 6 to 8 hours before their deaths, they were supposedly fine and eating.
Yeah, that is a long time for a lot of things to happen.
Right. And then it does also say that traces from the camp showed that the members left the campsite of their own accord and on foot. And this is one of the kickers for me that makes this, that blows the possibilities, makes a crazy amount of possibilities, is that it says high levels of radiation were found on one of the victims' clothing. So, again, they're not by any modern civilizations. There's nothing out there except this group of Mansi people that are, kind of close to them. But
and they don't have radioactive
materials. Right. They wouldn't have brought any machinery or radioactive materials with them because they needed to save weight and space for their food and equipment. So yeah, one of them was found with high levels of radiation, which is just nuts to me. I can't... The only, things that I can think of is possible military testing in the area, which is a major theory, or
we'll get into that
extraterrestrials, because you hear radiation with, UFOs and stuff.
On the military testing front, there is a even longer theory. Was it in the journals and the diaries where they claim to see bright lights in the sky?
Yeah. So
yeah, they basically in their entries they say they were seeing bright floating lights. I don't know how they described them exactly, but they saw them floating in the sky, and it has been claimed that this is military testing, that they were trying, the Russian government was using this area for testing something. I don't know what they were testing. Maybe there's more information on that than I know, and that these things were radioactive. Maybe caused them to go insane. Maybe, I don't know. I don't have anything more on that. Do you know any more about that?
The most likely explanation of the radiation is the military testing. This was at the time of the Cold War, so tensions were really high between the U.S. and Russia, and the U.S. was doing weapons testing in the United States at the time, and so Russia was doing it too. They were testing something, and the thing is, with technology, they always say that really what we have today is not the most advanced technology that we have. For instance, when we were talking about weather control on the last episode with HAARP, before anyone ever even knew anything about HAARP, they were already 20 years past what people were speculating HAARP was doing at the time. So at this time, Russia could have been 20 years ahead of whatever people thought the technology was, and could have been testing some crazy new weapons out there. Nuclear warfare was kind of the theme at the time of the Cold War. And so to find levels of radiation if it was military testing definitely makes sense. But the military, of course, denied, anything to do with it.
A little extra on the lights, quote unquote. They found their cameras, and obviously they had the film developed. And the last picture, they're all normal pictures, them posing next to trees, doing stuff, blah, blah, blah. I say blah, blah, blah a lot. I'm going to have to edit that out. I say a lot, too. I was pointed that out by someone that was listening the other day. Anyway, the last photo ever taken on that camera by them is low quality, obviously, very blurry, and it just looks like some lights. What does that mean to you? It's honestly a little unsettling photo.
Right.
I don't know what it is.
It looks to me like you can clearly see right in the middle. So it's black. Like the photo is mostly black. There's one like pixelated circle in the middle. And then on the upper left, it looks like fire. Like that looks like to me what would be like a fire.
Okay. I never thought of it like fire. Maybe like smoke.
Yeah,
coming
maybe
up from a fire.
Like something like, I don't know, like just the contrast between black and white.
I think it's and the whole thing has like a very, very faint white circle behind it. Like you can barely see. And that's the unsettling part to me.
The only other thing...
almost looked like eyes. Almost.
Yeah, I could see that too. I've heard people speculate that it was a face at one point.
Oh, that makes...
But...
That's freaky.
Yeah.
That's freaky. I do not like looking at the picture thinking it's a face.
Yeah, I don't either. The other thing I could see is cameras back then probably didn't have great shutter speed. And so it could be a light moving, you know? Like,
okay.
And it's capturing like the trail of the light moving.
I think they were a little better than that. But I do see where you're coming from.
Right. But that would be my theory, is it's either like something giving off thermal energy like a military missile that's being launched down there, or it's just a light that's moving quickly.
Or a daggum face.
Yeah, but dude, how would you get that much residual light coming off of a face, though?
Aliens.
Alien face.
Aliens. Maybe it's just a picture of absolutely nothing.
Well, here's an interesting development as well. So back in 2008, a hiker was up in the same area, found a huge, like, 3x3 piece of metal.
Really?
And he couldn't carry it out because it was either too heavy or he was too freaked out to carry it out, maybe because he thought there was radiation on it or something. But the Russian government went and investigated it, and if they said it fits well with the theory that the Russian military was conducting tests, and a secret missile crashed in the area, and its secret cargo may have been responsible for the radiation on the bodies.
Did it pull out their tongues and eyes?
Yeah, I don't know. But another interesting theory is that maybe the hikers were involved with the military testing.
Really? Like willingly?
Yeah, like maybe they were helping the military with something.
So they went, quote unquote, off course by accident.
I mean, maybe that's real, but the reason for the trip could have been just to go up there and help with some type of testing in the area. Just to oversee, I don't know, things out there. But yeah, so that piece of metal could potentially do something. It doesn't say much about it. It just says it was found in the same area, and it's dated to around the time that happened. So,
and so yeah, of course, there's tons and tons of speculation as to what happened. And for those who are super skeptical and want the most reasonable explanation, one theory, besides the avalanche, but still avalanche still isn't realistic to me for a few different reasons. But the most realistic to me is, again, I can't remember his name, of course, because it's Russian, the one that joined them.
Yuri. Oh, wait. Yeah, I don't remember that guy's name.
He was an outsider. He wasn't originally part of the group. No one knew him, really. But from what we could tell from the diary notes, it said, he joined us. He is ex-military. And he was a bad A in the military. Like
Black Ops, super high, special forces.
I can't remember the exact... I should have written this down, because
wasn't he Spetsnaz?
Probably.
I'm pretty sure, which is like Russian Navy SEALs, pretty much.
But I remember they have like a certain name for missions that are basically impossible, and they say like only like 20% of the people that go on these missions ever actually make it and survive. And he did like 4 of them. Or something like that. I need to find that. But
I remember reading that, yeah.
The numbers are definitely wrong, but it was something along those lines. Like, it was just freaking impressive. This guy is nuts. Like, he means business. I'm sure he was a lot of fun to have along, but one of the theories that came around was maybe he had some form of PTSD, something along the lines of that, where, I don't know, maybe something happened, maybe the campfire, maybe someone, I don't know, a loud noise in the woods, something just tipped him off, and he went bananas on everybody. Like, it was him who...
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that. Like, I remember one of my neighbors that... Why are you laughing, Jack? One of my neighbors that was in the military. Jack's dying of laughter over here. What?
Nothing. Keep going.
So one of my neighbors that was in the military said that, like, when he came back, he had really bad PTSD, and like, especially around the 4th of July, you hear tons of veterans that when they hear fireworks will like grab their gun and run outside, or they'll get really freaked out or whatever. So that's really possible. Like, maybe he did have a bunch of crazy PTSD and went on a rampage. For me personally, I think the most likely thing is that there probably was military testing, which, if there were explosions, could cause an avalanche. Because their tent was found, like,
buried,
with snow on it. Yeah, it was completely buried. There's a picture of it that you can see. It's, like,
but,
buried.
Again, they didn't find the tent even for, like, a week after... At least a week after they were missing. So there could have been an avalanche after this all happened. There could have been a ton of snowfall after this happened.
Right.
Everything being buried, the bodies and the tent and the campsite, that could be part of the reason, but also could be something completely unrelated because of how big the time frame was.
Right.
We can't say anything for certain.
I mean, I guess if there was an avalanche, thinking about it now, they probably wouldn't have been able to get as far away from the tent as they did. They would have been swallowed up by it quicker. So
they would not have gotten a mile away.
I mean, my theory is that there definitely was military testing, and the radiation could have caused them to, like, hallucinate or to be, like, go all crazy and weird.
Would it do that to all of them, though?
I mean, if they're all right there, yeah, probably.
But I don't feel like it would have the same effects on all of them. I feel like it might. Everything affects everyone differently.
I don't know. Maybe, like, some of them...
Again, how do you hallucinate? You can't tear out your own... I guess you could tear out your own tongue and eyes.
Right. Here's the thing. Maybe some of them were affected, and some of them weren't, but the ones that weren't, like, went after the ones that were, you know.
Or maybe the ones that were went after the ones that weren't.
Right. Well, like, yeah. Either they attacked the ones that weren't affected, or the ones that were affected ran out of the tent for some reason, and the ones that weren't, like, chased after them to try and, like, get them to come back or something. I don't know.
That doesn't add up to me. But
that's my... like, most likely thing is that it was something to do with military testing.
I definitely agree with that. There's something there.
Such a heightened, like, era of tension between Russia and the U.S. They're, like, I know for a fact they were doing some military testing somewhere, you know.
I'm curious as to... I've never actually looked at this on a map.
But it makes sense that the military would test in an area where nothing is, you know?
Right. I'm going to see... Oh, wow. That is Russia.
Oh, here's another thing why I think it's military, is because after the incident, the public wasn't allowed... Because they found the last bodies in May, so the snow had started melting. But the public wasn't allowed up there for like 3 months. And while they...
3 years.
Was it 3 years maybe? But they weren't allowed up there for a long time because the government was investigating. So a lot of people think that the government was cleaning up, like, what happened.
Yeah, the outcome was that the area was closed for the next 3 years.
Okay. So it was 3 years. The government was potentially cleaning up stuff, and then they also said that after the investigation, there were a bunch of journal entries and photos that were missing.
Really?
So if the government
I must have missed that.
If the government had found anything from the hikers that would have like given away their military testing or something. They probably either destroyed it or just archived it somewhere.
Well, how did the lights thing get out then?
Right, I don't know. Maybe they didn't think that was
important enough.
Yeah, something that
I
was
feel like they
enough.
would be thorough and just get rid of. I feel like they just take the journals and say, "What journals?
Right.
What photographs?" It sounds like a very government thing to do, but I don't know how Putin runs things over there. So
no, it wasn't Putin.
Well,
it was. Who was it at the time? I don't even know.
Barely know our history here in the U.S.
It was Russian leader in 1959. It was the Soviet Union at that time. And it was... The first secretary was Nikita Khrushchev.
Is there no official leader?
I'm pretty sure Khrushchev was the leader. Yeah, Khrushchev. And then he was the one who led them during the Cold War, from 53 to 64. Yeah.
And I mean, we haven't even scratched the surface on how many theories there actually are. I'm looking at some of the ones I haven't researched yet, and there's one called katabatic wind. Katabatic, I don't know what that is.
I've actually heard that one too. It's apparently a weather phenomena that causes like a certain frequency of wave, like sound wave.
Here, I can read it. It's not long. It says in 2019, a Swedish-Russian expedition was made to the site, and after investigation, they proposed that a violent katabatic, I don't know how to that's pronounced, but that kind of wind is likely the explanation for the incident. Katabatic winds are somewhat rare events and can be extremely violent, and was implicated in a similar case in Sweden, the accident at Anaris. Might have to look into that.
Yeah.
Where 8 hikers perished in 1978 in the aftermath of a katabatic wind. Katabatic, gosh dang. The topography of these locations were noted to be very similar according to the expedition. The sudden katabatic winds would have made it impossible to remain in the tent, and most rational course of action would be for the hikers would be to cover the tent with snow and seek shelter among the tree lines. There were also some flashlights. There was also a flashlight left turned on the top of the tent, possibly left there intentionally so the hikers can find their way back to the tent once the wind subsided. The expedition proposed that the group of hikers constructed 2 bivouac shelters.
Bivouac?
Mm-hmm. That's pronounced bivouac.
Yep.
That is dumb. That is so dumb. Anyway, constructed 2 bivouac shelters.
A bivouac is like a temporary shelter.
Okay. One of which collapsed, leaving the 4 hikers buried with the violent injuries observed. It didn't really explain there what a katabatic wind is, but it does, give some insight. And there's still more like infrasound testing. There's the military testing one that we've talked about a little bit. Paradoxical undressing, pseudo-scientific, others.
Aliens, Bigfoot.
Seriously, Yeti. One of the things was legit. Yeti just came after them and they just ran away.
Maybe they all got large life insurance policies before they left, faked their deaths.
And they're still alive in Barbados?
Yeah, they moved to Barbados. Or to Argentina and teamed up with Hitler down there.
Holy crap, I don't think you can say that.
Why not?
Oh, okay.
I'm just throwing out garbage theories like everyone else.
Fair enough. I can't argue with that. Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely is really weird. Really cool one to research. Look into it. Go look at the pictures if you have a strong stomach. Because some of them are... You see the lady with no eyes and no tongue. So that one's kind of weird.
Granted, these were pictures taken in the 50s, 60s. But still. It's not something you necessarily want to
The
see.
bodies were well preserved because of the snow. So
don't be eating your lunch when you're wanting to look at it.
Right.
What are katabatic winds?
So that katabatic wind, I want to say it's the one I researched where there's like a weather phenomena that causes a certain sound frequency that like drives you nuts.
Wow.
It might be different, but I'm pretty sure that's it.
According to this small article, it is a technical name for a drainage wind, a wind that carries high-density air from a higher elevation down a slope under the force of gravity. Such winds are sometimes also called fall winds. I guess that means they're frickin' violent, according to that one people. I didn't understand the part where they said, oh, they would have had to have left their tent. Why?
I don't know. This is why we're not scientists.
Or are we?
Dr. Jack and Dr. Austin here, researching weather phenomena for you.
Yep. Not medical stuff, though, because we went over... Didn't we go over that? Was that last episode?
That was last episode.
That was last episode. We mentioned that we were not doctors in any way.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. Of course, there's more. We want to keep these roughly to an hour, though, so... let us know if you want to hear more. Let us know if you know anything about these that we didn't cover or may have gotten wrong. Let us know if you want us to cover something of it like this again. Let us know if
you have any theories of your own that you've come up with.
Yes.
Or heard about. Shoot us an email. We're not on social yet, but we're getting there.
If someone wants to make us a social and send us the credentials.
We're learning internets, so
if you send it to me, I don't know, I'll eat a donut for you. I'll say this donut, this is for you, and I'm gonna scarf it down. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah, we'll be on social soon. For now, we've got the email tangentpodcast@outlook.com. Shoot us an email there.
Share with your friends.
Yeah. We love to hear from you guys. We do want our content to be fan-driven, so any other cases or mysteries you want to hear about, let us know. Shoot us an email, and we can research them and go
things like, say, hey, I didn't like this episode, or I did like this one. Just things like that. Anything is helpful. It's like, hey, okay, they like this, they don't like this, and we can look into it.
Yep.
And we are completely okay with changing who we are for you. Also, donate to the Do Fund.
Yes, the Do Fund.
The Do Fund.
We do have the Do Fund. What did we say last time? 65 cents a can. Helps us get a sugar high and become more entertaining for your podcasts. The sugar high
is what keeps us entertaining.
Yes.
Also keeps me out of my food comas. Let's see. Average cost of a can of soda.
Plus, we'll recycle them for you and donate. We'll put something back to the environment. So
never mind. Apparently, that's for Coke. Coke, a 16-ounce can. Is that normal? How big are those cans?
Check.
Are those 8 ounces?
I think these are 8 ounces. So let's see. 12.
Okay, so doing the math, it's about 80 cents. You can spare that, I swear. Just keep us alive with our sugar rushes. Or not. I don't really care. I'll buy it either way. Maybe.
But yeah, let us know what you guys think of the podcast. Give us some feedback. And shoot us some emails. We'll be on social soon, and we'll give you the deets of the page names as well, and what platforms they'll be on for social.
We might have to get a new Twitter handle because they won't let me back into that one.
Really?
Yeah, that's just locked down.
Huh.
I can't even delete it to try and start over.
Maybe Twitter figured out that we were talking about the Russian government today and shut us down.
They're in cahoots.
Yeah. Twitter is the Russian government.
Yes. Twitter caused the death of those 9 men.
Yes. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys.
Sponsor us, Twitter.
Again, thanks for tuning in. Have a good evening.
And see you next time.